Acts chapter 27. But as it was judged that we sail away towards Italy, they gave over both Paul, besides also some ulterior prisoners, to the hecatontarch Julius, the one by the name Julius of the honorable troop. But having stepped on board an Adramuthian ship, which was about to sail into the places along Asia, we were being led up together, with us being Aristarchus the Macedonian, the Thessalonian. Besides, in the ulterior day, we were down-led into Sidon. Besides, Julius, treating Paul human friendly, conceded to him to go to the friends to attain Charon. And having been led up from there, we sailed under the island of Cyprus, because the winds were standing in opposition to us. Besides, sailing through the sea expanse, that in regards to Sicilia and Pamphylia, we came down into Lystra, that of Lucia. And there the hecatontarch, having found an Alexandrian ship sailing towards Italy, he let us step into the same. But within adequately many days sailing tardily, and hardly having become moved over against the city Knidos, the wind not permitting us to come there, we sailed under the island of Crete, over against Salmon. Besides, hardly sailing along it, we came into a place called Koloilemenes, to which was near the city of Lasea. But by reason of adequately much time having thoroughly become elapsed, and the ship voyage being already unsecure, also because the fasting having already come past by, Paul exhorted them, saying to them, Men, behold that the ship voyage is about to be with wickedment and much loss, not only of the lading and the ship, but also of our souls. But the hecatontarch complied much more to the steering one and to the captain, on that to those things being said under the authority by Paul. But since the harbor was inappropriate for overwintering, the majority set the council to be led up away from there, if they somehow would be able getting into Phoenix, a harbor of the island of Crete, looking toward southwest and toward northwest to overwinter there. But there were below-blowing winds of the south, deeming to have hold rightly concerning the purpose. Lifting anchor, they sailed close along the island of Crete. But not much time after, a wind, a hurricane called Euroclydon, cast itself against this island, and by reason of the being caught of the ship, and not being able to eye against the wind, we gave it up, and were carried. But running under an islet called Claudia, we were hardly strong enough to become holding of the rescue skiff, which having lifted it up, they used as help, undergirding the ship, and besides fearing, if in order not to come into the Syrtis, they should sail further out, they sank the implement, and thus they were carried. But we, being extremely tempest-tossed, they made a jettison in the next havable day. And in the third day themselves, laying hands on, they flung away the implements of the ship. But when neither the sun nor stars were on appearing for more days, besides by reason of the winter not a little lying on us, so the rest was that every expectation of our being saved was completely eliminated. Besides, when there was much of the origin beginning abstinence from grain, then Paul, having been made to stand in their midst, said, That abides. It was binding, O men, origin beginning to comply to me, not to sail away from the island of Crete, to thereby gain. Besides, this wickedment also the loss. And now, in spite of this, I exhort you to feel well, for there will be not one casting away of the soul, out from any one of you, but whereas that of the ship. For this cause an angel of God, to whom I am, and whom I worship, gave himself as standby to me here in the night, saying, Fear not, Paul. It is binding that you give yourself as standby to Caesar. And perceive, God has graced to you all those sailing with you. Therefore feel well, you men, for I faith God that it will be thus, yea, according to the same manner as it has been spoken to me. But it is binding that we stand out toward an island. But as the 14th night had become, for us who were being through carried in the Sea of Adria, according to the middle of the night, the nautical ones suspected some coastal region to be led before the eyes, who then, casting the plumb, found 20 fathoms. But thoroughly standing a little while, and again casting the plumb, they found 15 fathoms. But fearing and wishing that we might not fall in somewhere against rough places, flinging 4 anchors out of the stern, they wished that it become day. But as the nautical ones were seeking to flee out of the ship and had sunk the rescue skiff into the sea, under pretext to do so, as if they were about to stretch out anchors out of the prow, Paul said to the Hecatontarch and to the warfarers, "Unless these abide in the ship, you are not able to be saved." Then the warfarers hewed off the ropes of the rescue skiff and let her fall out, down. But until it was about to become day, Paul beside called them all together to partake of the nourishment, saying, "Today is the 14th day that you thoroughly finish as hoping and abstinent from grain, having taken aside not one thing. Therefore I beside call you to partake some nourishment, for this below origin begins for your safeguarding. For not one of your hairs will wholly loosen itself away out from the head." But saying this, and having taken bread, thanking God in the eye of all, and breaking it apart, he Origin began to eat. But when they all together, having become well-feeling, they also themselves partook of the nourishment. But we, yea, all of the souls in the ship, were 276. And having been oversaturated with nourishment, they unloaded the ship, casting out the grain into the sea. But when it had become day, they did not know the earthland. But seeing a bay which had a beach, they down thought about it, toward which they counseled if they would be able to heave out the ship. And having put the anchor aside beforehand, they let them into the sea. At the same time, having slackened the yokings of the rudders, and hoisting the topgallant sail in the blowing wind, they had firm course toward the beach. But having all around counterfallen, they shoved on the nautical craft toward the sandbank, crossing through the sea, and that abides, the prow sticking therein abode unshakable. But the stern was loosened away by the violence of the waves. But there became to be a council of the warfarers that they should slay the prisoners, that not anyone swimming out flee by coming through. But the Hecatontarch, determining to save Paul throughout, prevented them, addressing them from the podium. Besides, he commanded those being able to swim to be flinging themselves off the ship, as foremost ones to go out on the earthland, and the rest should follow. Some that abides, swimming on planks, but some on any parts from the ship. And thus it became that all were saved throughout into the earthland.